So hi there, Dave Dobbs here. It's the 29th of December 2016, nearly 2017. And I thought I'd make a video today to follow up on something that Steve Olson brought up on his channel, on his newer WSO channel with Scott from the Nibiru channel. Well, let me just show you the little bit of footage, first of all.
I zoomed in on it, and when I zoomed in on it, I basically almost choked on my coffee.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I was like, wow, I cannot believe this, because there's no other planet in our solar system that's going to produce, this discharge of these wings.
Right. And that brings up the other thing that you sent to me, and you said, hey, Steve, we need to get a hold of Dave Dobbs. So Dave, if you're watching, I have tried to reach out to you a couple times, but look at what happened. This is from December 17th, I believe, right?
Yeah, a couple days ago in France.
Well, all right. There we go. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that this fits with Dave's analysis of this, and that's what we're going to try to get Dave on. And I'll have you on the show too, Scott, so you can ask him questions. But what do you think of this, man?
Yeah, I mean, this was I got this from one of my subscribers in France. What I'm actually finding out is there is some censorship going on in France.
Okay, so thank you for first of all, Steve and Scott. Thank you for both inviting me in to comment on this. Excuse me, making my own video. I'd love you to put it up with some of your stuff as well, because it very much follows on with obviously this whole research. And Steve, I've got to be honest with you, this doesn't fit into my timeline. It doesn't fit in, and it doesn't make sense with the current timeline, and therefore we have to start making calculations as to what that is. And you've seen me continuously bring up these twin tail sort of flybys. And in the later videos, when I first brought them up, I only really show short shots of it, because you can imagine most of my subscribers and people who are following what I'm saying have seen it so too many times. They don't want to be taken through each very long sighting, and that's the characteristic of these sightings, is that they occur for a very long time. They stay in a very they sometimes move backwards, they sometimes move sideways, they sometimes they stay in the sky far longer than a jet chemtrail or comtrail, contrail, whatever they're called. But this characteristic is it's a Nibiru characteristic, except that Nibiru, by my maths, can't be there because we've already seen it. We saw it heading back towards the sun direction on the 22nd of September. It's not making sense unless we start to consider there really is another twin-tailed object up there. And we've got a big problem here, because as you said, Scott, there can't be another twin tail object. But I've got two testimonies of two video testimonies of another flyby with two what look like Nibirus, two twin tail objects going exactly the same direction, running exactly parallel with each other. Jeff P brought this up recently as well, and said, what about these? We have these two distinct sightings. So we know there is another. We know there's several objects orbiting this dwarf planet. Several celestial bodies. I'm not too sure how many exactly. I've heard lots of different sort of accounts. But I like to sit. I like to have documented testimony, and that's why these flybys are so important to me, because they're real flybys that are coming in from a variety of sources, and each one independent. I can't imagine all of these people coming out and getting together and saying, let's all post these independently. I found that timeline by, I didn't have the exact 200 days, or maybe I had one 200-day interval between two timelines, but I had to basically work it out, and then I had to spend literally probably the best part of really months digging through YouTube trying to find them out as I started working out the timeline. I had to start finding those various flybys, and sometimes I got the dates wrong, and then we had to source out where and when they were originally posted, because sometimes people post flybys of planets, and they don't give a time, a date, a place, and they're so important when you post a video, because you can just add so much confusion to you can just water down the mix and throw confusion out. So it takes not just finding a finding, but actually knowing that it's a legitimate, knowing that the time and the place and the date are legitimate. And so we've got a problem with this date. That you've seen all the other timelines that I've put together, they were on the 200-day timeline. Okay, and then we had Becky Lewis's footage, which was on the 28th of March 2015. Now I'd predicted that Nibiru, in previous videos, I predicted that Nibiru would pass Earth on the 22nd of December. And obviously I've talked about this. I'm not going to go into too much detail on any of these, because obviously those who watch my channel know all about it, but obviously more people are coming on board with this all the time, so I have to kind of regurgitate everything as we're going along. And it's very important this, because this footage on the 28th of March 2015, I made a video literally a day before that saying we are coming to the 100-day point in this cycle, like a half point after that sighting on the 22nd of December 2015 that I predicted would come in, and then it came in. At the time I thought, oh, what had I done? But then it passed. We had two corroborating testimonies saying it passed. So when I put that together, I realized that at that point, when we I didn't know we were going to see it then. I was understanding that this would be the half point in the cycle. But then we had this footage from Becky Lewis, and we suddenly saw it, and she made it the day after. And when she made it, she was like, oh my God, Dave Dobbs, he'd said that we were exactly at the half point. So she posted the video. It's an incredible piece of footage. And then we realised that I'd actually, in my earlier videos, I'd said that I predicted the next passage, all the next passages. It was around about the 23rd of June, I think. I can't remember exactly. And then it was going to be the 15th, the 25th of. It was going to be the 25th of January 2017. I'd minus 50 days from that cycle, because up until that Becky Lewis footage on the 28th of March. The 100-day point, half point in the cycle. I'd never imagined that it was at, if you like, a right angle. It was being seen at a right angle to the sun from our perspective each time. So because of that, I deducted exactly 50 days from the 25th of January 2017. I had no other choice, because we'd only ever had one cycle, one point in the cycle up until then, as it had gone over the sun. So then my only logical conclusion was to deduct 50 days to bring it to a quarter cycle. The only point it could, if it was going to affect Earth, the closest point would be 50 days before the furthest point away from the sun in the cycle. Except that you'd have to understand, this whole system, for this to happen, would have been having to leave the sun and being on its exit trajectory. Excuse me. So when we saw this 100-day point, it was just like, oh my God, that means that it's finally moved away from the sun. It's close. It's sort of closest point to the sun, which means we're seeing both sides of it. And but then we knew it was beginning, absolutely, without any doubt. It was not still going round, it was actually leaving the sun. So we knew it was on its way out. It was just that where was the exit point? Was it going to come straight over the sun and keep going, sort of in an arc, or was it going to come right back round and come back from whence it came, the same sort of direction? I have no idea. We can all have our different theories and that sort of stuff, but we've got to understand that obviously there's higher bodies, higher intelligence in our own world that understands more about this than I do, that is not telling us. And because maybe it doesn't want us to be too scared, maybe it just doesn't know how to deal with it, maybe it just doesn't really know which side of the fence it's on in all of this, that it's so confused by all the data, it just doesn't know. It's piggy in the middle of just too much, that it hasn't actually got any answers right now. It's just how to deal with the most impossible thing to even believe. And when you do see it, you just can't believe it. It's just overwhelming. And so we come to this footage that you've sent me, Scott, via, or Scott and Steve, you've sent me this footage. Like I say, it doesn't really fit in, or maybe it does, and the 50-day thing is correct, but if that's the case, that's not making any sense to me, because I'm not seeing. You can see just by looking at that footage of the twin tail. So that was on December the 17th, that twin tail. And then we have this footage after on the 20th that I'm assuming it's on the 20th, the morning of the 20th, I'm assuming, where you have this red orb and this what looks like a twin tail again. So we have these two corroborating testimonies of two twin tails, one on the 28th of March 2015 and one on the 28th of February 2013. And what's interesting here is that they're both on the same day. So I know that doesn't seem significant in any real way because there's such a big gap between the two, but sometimes the most simplest things are staring us in the face. And I didn't notice this until after so, very much in this practice, the reason I work with these twin tails is because there's so much data here. There's so much mind-blowing data that's coming in, just like the wave that's coming in at the moment, and all these kind of like all this helium that's coming in, and this atomic evidence of a collapsed dwarf planet. Something that's gone from the process of fusing hydrogen into helium, and then it's collapsing down more from there, I guess, into more denser material. So it's a very, very old grandfather sun, and maybe that's why it has a slightly it's abundant with a different type of helium apparently. But I'm no kind of like I'm no chemist or anything like that really. I have my own little air, I'm a writer, but so I research information, and there's lots of information about this, and I'd really advise anyone who's trying to understand this to because there's a lot of great minds looking into this. BP Earthwatch is just his channel absolutely amazing, really amazing research. Whether he's right, I don't think he's trying to be right. I think he's just trying to gather as much information as possible and open our heads to sort of like trying to understand this a bit better. And so this is new to all of us. Most of us can't believe what's happening at the moment. What to say about it? But anyway, we've got two corroborating testimonies here. The other one, like I say, on the 28th of March 2001, on the 28th of March 2015, and one on the 28th February 2013. And so I started running calculations with all of these dates, because there's some other dates that are not fitting in, and I started realizing that I started playing with this month cycle. So then we take the sighting on the 22nd of September 2016. This didn't fit quite with the timeline either. This was, I'd expect the timeline, just to go over the date calculator here, I'd expect that I was expecting on my timeline around about the 17th of October as the half point cycle, and the 22nd of September 2016 of that flyby posted here. That threw a spanner in the works for me. That really did as well, because we have to follow. If we really find a pattern and we've got enough flybys to actually to make this work, so we're not just kind of like, we're not just playing with the numbers. We've got 7, 8, 9, whatever it is, flybys, all of, and really very close to 200 days apart, and that's just too much data to ignore. So, and we've got, like I say, we've got two sightings with 2 twin tail objects, in both pictures. They're both parallel, and they're a couple of years apart. So I'm starting to put it together that we've got another object. If I put all those dates into a calculator, into a date calculator. Okay, so that means we've got 2 corroborating testimonies of 2 twin tail objects, and we've worked out one of them. We've worked out the one that has the 200-day timeline, and that's really what I've been focusing on. We have to focus on that, because that's the data that's really coming in, that we're seeing, that gives us, it's the only thing I can see that's going to give us any real clue as to where this thing is exactly, and when it most affects us, by absolute fundamental flybys. It's so important. You can see what rests on knowing the exact time that this most affects us, and as the data comes in, we can start building more of an understanding. So we're getting these various shots basically coming in that are basically, they're only occurring when we're very close to Nemesis, of something else, other objects orbiting, other twin-tailed objects orbiting Nemesis. It's all just so impossible to believe. When I start putting the data together, it's a little bit hit and miss, but it seems that this thing has literally a 30-day thereabouts cycle, give or take. It's difficult to tell, because you never see it when it's completely in line. You only see it when after the sun has set. So you're not getting, we're seeing it at various points in its cycle, but it's all just so unbelievably impossible to believe. You're bringing in another thing to try and make sense of all these different sightings, but actually, the kind of mass of this is, it kind of all falls on the 25th of, in my mind, it's confusing the data, but we're finding patterns where we can start filling in the gaps, and I'm still limited. That we've had this shot that I took on the 2nd of December, and now Dill Martin has put up a shot on the that was filmed on the 25th, which I believe is the same thing. We watched this object. I saw this object in the northern hemisphere, and that was the picture I caught on the 2nd of December this year, and it's just reappearing now. To me, it's the same thing. It's going round and round, and so it's really confusing all our heads now. That shot on the 22nd of September this year. this shot looks very similar to the shot that you caught on the 17th of December, or you're showing on the 17th of December, Scott. It's looking like this was the first time that we've ever been really that close to that second object, which gives you an idea of how close we are to Nemesis right now. We're literally, you know, like I say, if Nemesis was going to affect us, it would be affecting us massively now. And I'm of a mind something has to be protecting us now. Well, I'm told, you know, the space I go to when I do my process, I'm told that we're being very protected now, and so we are now in we're in a place where only time will tell. But by my maths, we should be having, you know, the object that you caught. Well, I believe BP BP Earthwatch posted it originally, and you posted it in on your channel, Steve. This shot here, I believe you posted it on the 22nd of December, Steve. I mean, that's where I'm expecting Nibiru to be right now, right there, with a tail trailing behind it. And it reflects light, and the reason it reflects light is as impossible to believe as Nibiru itself, because I'm suggesting there's a massive shield up there which is collecting all this solar energy and is utilizing this energy to create a shield that's protecting us, to divert gravitational energy so we don't get sucked in by this this massive giant celestial body. And also to somehow use some kind of screen projection which is blinding us from so much, but we're just it's getting very close to us now, because all of this system is getting very close to us now, and so it reflects light back at this thing coming towards us. That's why we can see it. Even the fact that we can see it, have you ever seen, you know, there's so much stuff that is happening now which is quite beyond belief. So that's where I'm imagining it is at the moment. It's appearing very close to the sun. It's actually all occurring between Earth and the sun, but it's appearing above the sun because it's cutting across the line of the sun as we see it, and that's what I believe it's going to do. And it's going to get, you know, my timeline may be incorrect, but I'm just trying to run it on the basic maths of all the other sightings, so we can be logical and sensible and number crunch it. But you know, like I say, I was wrong last year. You know, okay, I predicted the timeline, but I thought it was going to be a lot closer. And you know, there's a lot of respectable people in this like Nibiru field that think that, like I say, that this thing is inbound and it's beyond Earth at the moment and it's heading in. And I just haven't worked out a model for that in all the sightings, especially all the sightings that Chris Potter put up in the early days, and yourself, Steve, and of so many sightings close to the sun. You know, Chris Potter just showed me endless images, endless amazing images, and he was as mesmerized by them as we all were. They were just mind blowing. And so I have to believe that this thing has been in between, closer to the sun for the last several years. I can't get around that, and that now we're finally seeing this thing popping into our night sky, and you remember that the incredible footage of Matthew Rogers. I think it was on the 15th of August. If it's not up at the date, I'll correct, but that was about the time that I was expecting this whole system to be seen in the night sky, but not actually right in our night sky, just when the sun sets. After the sun sets, we get that little passage like we do with Venus. It never goes over us. We only see it when we see it in the night sky way before it comes into transit. We see it as it approaches us, and it becomes a kind of like evening star, and then we see it as it leaves, it goes underneath Earth, doesn't go over the top into our night sky, and we see it as it quite a considerable time after it's left its transit, and it's heading out when it becomes our morning star. Hopefully I might have those the wrong way around, but I think you get my gist. And I knew that as we approached the Nemesis system, we would get that shot. I was calculating that we would get that shot because it hadn't passed. We hadn't had a pass, the close passage in June, July. You know, I knew that that was the next point in the 200-day cycle, in the full cycle point. But I didn't know if that was the exit, location, or whether Nemesis was going all the way around the sun and back out, like I say, from whence it came. So there's been so much unknown data, we can just calculate it. But with all the sightings, especially with the helium now and everything else like that, how much data do you need? All the earthquakes, the volcanoes, the sinkholes, the whole shaboodle is absolutely happening now. But we haven't had the big close flyby, and if we just haven't. We're expecting, but we've pretty much done. I believe we've pretty much done Nemesis now. We've pretty much passed it, and so this now becomes a bigger kind of picture in that we can't believe any of this. It's just too big for our story in so many different ways, and as I've said in my previous videos, there's a great blessing there. Except there's an enormous amount of confusion. I tell you, there's more confusion now in terms of, you know, I find it the hardest thing to believe sometimes that we have a democracy, and we see, you know, in Syria we see 90% of the Syrians voting for Assad. You know, they have to risk gunfire and everything else to vote. And the most unbelievable thing is that when we have our democracies, most of us sit it out. And that disturbs me. It disturbs me because it disturbs me because I have a different picture of our political process than I think a lot of people do. Only because, like I say in my previous videos, I've run for government, and we did it as a bit of a piss take, really, when we turned a sort of sound system into a political party. And we all kind of run for government, and I was so on the other side of the fence at that stage, and so I'm not trying to point finger at the non-voters here, because I was on that camp as well, and I find just not voting and giving up your power and walking away when so many people have fought for those rights to express a choice. But well, before I get myself into too much hot water here, because I don't want to sound like I'm blaming, because I do understand, because I've been on both sides, but I just want to play you this incredible bit of footage. Well, let me just play you this. It seems irrelevant to Nibiru, but we're talking about belief structure here, because if we can't believe this is real, if we can't believe what's happening now, we're not going to be able to do anything. And so the problem is that we can't believe Nibiru because it's just too unbelievable. It's just, how do you touch that? How do you bring that into a story? When it's so fantastic. So let me play you this bit of footage here.
This election. Let's talk about the election. You know, as we speak today, it's down to Hillary, Bernie, and Trump.
Yeah, but see, you're talking to the wrong person. I never believed there was going to be an election this year, and it's not. Mm-hmm. Trump ain't got no money. Trump ain't never had no money. They talk about his daddy. You ever seen a picture of his daddy? You ever seen anybody write a story about his daddy?
No. I mean, they got his money from his dad, yeah.
I didn't ask you that. See, you keep talking to me. I don't want to hear. I asked you, have you ever seen a picture of his daddy?
No, I have not.
Have you ever heard a story about his daddy? And that don't bother you? Huh? That don't bother you? And so much of us out here been talking and shit. His sister had the whole press conference. No, he didn't give him no $100 million. He gave him $1 million. I wonder why he didn't give me none. Huh? You know? See, if you're getting in this here and you're gonna move to people more powerful than me, I ain't gonna talk to you if you don't know nothing. The fuck I'm gonna talk to you about money if you ain't got none? That's what this shit is about. That's why NBC and ABC, that's why I look at them. Not that I believe them, they got $1 trillion industry to do the research, and I can pick it apart. That's simple.
So, I know you don't expect there to be an election, but did you think Trump would get as far as he has?
I didn't know who it was. Huh? Look, let me show you something here. Let me show you the shit that I know. It's the Wall Street Journal. One of the most powerful papers in the world. Don't mean it's no good. What's the date? Now, hold it 1 minute. Hold it. Hold it. I ran for president 1968. The election was Tuesday, November the 4th. This story ran Friday, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. Now, what's the date on that? What paper is that?
Wall Street Journal, November 7th, 1968. Page
Headlines.
6. Election computer goofs gives Gregory 9 million votes.
That's why you can't talk to me. I got too much information. I got 9 million votes in the state of Pennsylvania. Huh? Okay? That's what fasting do. Huh? Now read the first paragraph.
Some machines just aren't to be believed. Take the big computer in New York that was designed to compile results of Tuesday's general election.
All elections are tabulated in New York City. Go ahead.
At one point early yesterday morning, the machine was crediting Dick Gregory, the comedian turned presidential candidate, with 9 million votes in Pennsylvania.
Now, here's what happened. The energy took over, the computers, and they had to shut them down because it projected me as president-elect of the United States. And they couldn't change it because they couldn't change the numbers.
Wow.
9 million votes in one state. I know what it was. They went in there and tricked the machine for Nixon, but somebody put it on wrong and they gave it to me. So I'm going in the election and know all this bullshit y'all read. It ain't true. They did it just like they did that. Huh? Just like they did that.
Yeah, the one time Trump lost, he said it was rigged. The few weeks ago when
First,
Trump
there's
lost.
2 Trumps.
Okay.
The one in the red tie is the real one. The one in the blue tie is not. The one you saw last night after the victory was the blue tie. Now, if you would punch up Dr. Carson, Ben Carson, when Trump called him a pedophile, and the next day he joined Trump. And the guy asked him, see, every now and then you slip and say something? He said, why'd you do that? He said, there's 2 Trumps. I was with the good one.
And so that's the problem basically. You got this guy, he's, president-elect effectively. He believes they just dumped all those votes on him and made him win. And made Nixon win. and there'd been a computer glitch. But I mean, we don't know what really happened there. But to me, that computer was probably correct. Probably quite correct. I doubt very much the system is that fixed. I imagine it's being sort of like, I can imagine it's being tampered with as soon as you're bringing in private bodies to start counting your votes. When in England it's all done by a massive, when the votes are counted, there's all the different parties are there. Every candidate can bring 10 people of his or her own in and to watch the count, and it's all done by the general public that are invited in, people working in the councils and other people that are invited in that have to qualify certain things. It's a very controlled thing, but it's run by the people. It really is. The irony is that it gets taken over by the media. and we get actually repulsed out of the whole thing. And but I think that the reason we don't vote is that it's our way of protesting somehow, and yet it was the people that won that, and we're kind of being repulsed out of that. And we're not really engaging in anything. It's like, unfortunately, I've not been able to make any comments on. I've just not been able to. I've not been able to handle the comments or any. I've not been communicating with anybody at all. I've just struggled so much with communication with this, because I've kind of hit a bit of a wall in myself. When I wrote Laughing Gas, and when I mentioned that, like as I always say, it's not a plug. I'll leave a download link for the book, so you can get the book. You can get the book free of charge. But when I wrote that, I talked about the whole Europe thing, and saying, and I was told that, in the space, like I say, I go when I do my kind of process, if you like, when I write and what have you, and I literally had a vision, like a telepathic, where you see something in your field, like a clairvoyant sort of experience, and it was in the bright sunlight. It was in bright sunlight, and I didn't know what was happening, but I could see something in. I couldn't see it just when I was just in a room in the shade, but as soon as I went into sunlight, I could see it, and I saw this image, and it was this. It was just like catching in the sunbeams, and it was bunting. What was literally bunting? I couldn't work it out, and then suddenly I saw the bunting, and as soon as I saw the bunting, I realised the bunting was connected to this massive funnel, and this funnel went down to this huge, great ship, and it was massive riveted plates, and it had 4 funnels. And as I looked at the front of it, I knew it was the Titanic, but it said Great Britain. And I know Isambard Kingdom Brunel's. I'm fascinated. I've always been fascinated by many of the things he's constructed, and I know the SS Great Britain, and it wasn't the SS Great Britain. It was most distinctly the Titanic. And as I saw it, I heard the words. If you cut, we come to a juncture, and if we. And if we cut our anchors, and a juncture between going east and west, it said if we cut our anchors and go west, our fate is sealed. And it was such a grave kind of like, and so it kind of inspired me. And much of Laughing Gas came as a result of these kind of inner processes, to sort of like of this kind of message that was coming through me, which I put into this story. And when I see a lack of engagement in the political process, to me, like I say, that's as unbelievable to me, because that's why I kind of run on it, to try and engage. And I realise I don't see, in whatever I communicate with, I don't believe I see the true outcome of anything. I just see kind of possible outcomes and possible scenarios, and they're so difficult for me to sort of, because I don't know the outcome. Our choices create the outcome of this, and so the message here is that we're in it. We've given up. It's very difficult sometimes for other intelligence to get involved if it doesn't know which side of the fence we're really on. And so the process that we're going through here it has become so much of a bigger process, because it transcends anything that is political, and it transcends anything which is really what is kind of physical in our world and beyond this world, be it Nibiru, Nemesis, or anything. It's about the process that's happening on a much deeper level, on a soul level, and that's what as I'm understanding, this is really all about. You see, if this world is destroyed in this process, it's a loss for all souls that come to this planet to incarnate. Because you lose so much of the valuable life, what planet Earth is really all about, the the genetic mandala that makes life what we are, the bigger picture, not just now, but all encompassing now. And so what we destroy and what is destroyed in any process, sometimes if that destruction is so massive, it can affect the future of a planet, because certain souls can't incarnate there in that fashion anymore, because the intellectual property, the life, genetic intellectual property has been destroyed. And there's no winners in that situation. And we've had to go through an enormous evolutionary jump. If Nibiru is unbelievable, the concept that Earth has been invaded is as unbelievable, or more or less unbelievable, but it's quite beyond belief. And unfortunately, that's really the bigger picture that we're looking at here. We're coming to an understanding that we've been dominated by a more advanced species for a long time, and I've got to come out with this because it's also unbelievable, but I don't know that much about them, other than it would appear that they live in our oceans. They are our maritime law. They rule us by offering us technology, and they only deal with the most aggressive parts of humanity. So humanity is kind of forced to take an aggressive stance when dealing with this more advanced intellectual species. Call them reptiles, call them whatever you like. And it's led to this dynamic. And really what's actually happening is that humanity is becoming neck and neck with this other race. And the intention and the allowance of this whole process was to see that humanity had invited in this more intelligent species onto Earth, but the agreement always was that in exchange for a place to come, they would give us technology. That was how the whole thing was opened up. That's why other parties couldn't interfere, because it wasn't so much an invasion as an invitation. We invited them in. We called, it was an exchange, and that exchange has actually been paid for by their being here. They are not our keepers. We are actually their keepers. And this is the biggest deception of all, is that humanity is piggy in the middle of if you like, it's piggy in the middle of a more aggressive, intelligent species. And Nibiru, literally this massive thing that seems to threaten everything on this planet. And we've got to see where we have fallen short of the mark and where things are going wrong here. But we've also got to see that we've been piggy in the middle here because of choices that humanity made a long time ago that brought this whole transition. And literally this transition is what you're looking at. Really, the most logical suggestion is that makes the most practical sense is that all the water from Mars came to Earth. And there's various arguments of how that's occurred, and I've got my own arguments that it was a dimensional tear, and I've got so much evidence of that now. I've just got so much evidence of it, and I've posted previous videos about the water coming from Mars and Atlantis, and all the information's there in my previous channel. So I won't go too much about the transition of that, because like I said, this whole thing is so unbelievable. Everything that is going on now, I'm afraid, is beyond the scope of your belief. That the only real chance you've got left is to kind of step out of that now. Step out of that now and realise you've got to start seeing the bigger picture. And it's an impossible picture for you to see that only by going into some divine grace in here, coming out of this story of restriction on where you can go with the story of your world. You know, the media is running all of this whole trick on your mind. They're the ones who run Brexit. They're the ones who repulse you out of your elections. They're the ones who run this whole story and then go and blame it on Russia and everything else like that. It's a story. It's a massive story that's blinding you from a much bigger story that is staring you in the face. And that story, it overwhelms you that you're going to have to come into your deeper heart truth right now and see all this stuff that's going on. It's such a simple picture. You know, it's such a simple picture that's going on. You know, the mad thing is that the Martians, the reptilians, they left Mars because of Nibiru. They were fleeing Nibiru. They weren't fleeing the destruction of their own world. They were fleeing a world that was going to be destroyed because it was of war. And Earth is not a planet of war. Earth is a planet subverted by those that run from Mars to come here to subvert this planet with war. They're just trying to drive you into war. They just want you because they know the truth that this isn't going to destroy this planet. And many of those at the top think that it is going to destroy this planet, and it's not. But there is going to be a massive change, and that change is so simple. The biggest part of that change is that from after Nibiru, after the passage of this, Earth goes from a duality into a singularity. That's how this is going to be settled. One human, one soul. That's what's been told to me. That's going to be the biggest part of this. Who you are now, who you're bringing in your truth right now, beyond all your belief. You know, you're not choosing a side in all of this. You're choosing a soul right now. You know, as I tell you this, I'm trembling when I touch this because I touch the real core of the message that was given to me. And so, you know, it's too big for me. I can't talk to, you know, my absolute eye and my heart. I can barely talk to the closest people in my life right now. I can't open up a communication, let alone do my comments section, let alone make emails, Facebook. I can't do that right now. This is real for me. My whole life has culminated in getting this message. It overwhelms me. It overwhelms us all. You know, if you're one of the people who see this now, know that you are great beings embodied in this earth right now. Just to have the courage. You know, you want to go to the stars. What about going to the breath of yourself, the breath of your own belief system? Go beyond it. Then you are a Star Trekker then. Truly, you are. You're travelling. You're going to the breadth of this world. And beyond. You're going beyond your own, the structure of the story that has, it's not a prison, it's a prism. And we bounce off it and we just go round and round and round. And if we want to get out of it, we have to go in through the centre of ourselves. We have to go to that divine process directly in ourselves and realise we are already everything. By my reckoning, this thing's coming in on it's going to pass us on the 25th of January. I may be wrong with that calculation, but it's based on a lot of corroborating testimony. And I can only ask you to prepare as best you can. Turn it into a venture. Try to think of what you'd like to do next year. Like if you know, if you're going to have an allotment and that sort of stuff. Like focus on all that sort of stuff, getting all the seed and all that sort of stuff. And I started talking about this in previous videos, and then I had to just it became so much for me that I had to I just couldn't there was I couldn't make any money out of this or anything else like that. I just, and so all those that were coming to me for seed at that time, I started looking at the prices of the seed around here, and I started looking at the prices everywhere, and I just started realizing how abundant it is on the internet, and that you don't need me for that. That there's so much available organic seed available on the internet and everything else like that. That and really, my process in this is going into the messages coming in for me right now on the spiritual front. And like I say, when I touch this space, it makes me tremble. Because it's so powerful. It's bigger than us. And I don't know. I don't know what to say to you. I'd say granite floats on magma. Granite floats on magma, on basalt. I'd say get as high as you can, be sensible, have an adventure. I'm thinking about sort of like having a bit of a sort of like après ski competition up here in the sort of like at the end of January. I'm just going to put it out on Facebook. So après ski something, I don't know, something a bit silly, and invite people up for that, because I can't organise that much, guys, because I just haven't got it in me right now. It's as much as it is for me to corroborate this data that's coming in. My heart's with you right now. I haven't got a lot left to say in these videos, because I don't know what I'm going to just spend the rest of these. I'm going to post a few more videos and post the sightings that are coming in now, guys. But you've just got too much sensational data that's coming through you now. That is just like I don't know what you need. I don't know what makes someone just wake up and think, actually, what the hell is going on? I'm just keeping a life up here and just doing it myself, putting it into actions. And you've got to come into yourself now and do what you've got to do. So, because I'm trembling so much, and I've been waffling on enough now, and I realise that it is what it is. Your process in this is what it's all about right now. Who you are. Who you have the courage to be.